Thanks for joining us. It's John Terry with Vision Advisors, and I want to thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to be with us. Today, we're going to talk about how to stand out in the crowd, how to get the attention of your audience. Now, when I'm talking about your audience, I'm not talking about a general audience. I'm talking about a change in thinking and a change in the way you do your business to get in front of your ideal prospect target audience, and to do so in such a way that you stand out in the crowd. And when you raise your hand saying, pick me, you are the person that they look to. So how do we do that? That's what we're going to spend some time talking about in this workshop that we're going to be putting on for the next 45 to 60 minutes. So again, thanks for joining us. Let me encourage you to grab a piece of paper and a couple of housekeeping items as we get started. Number one, if you've got your phone, let me just encourage you to either mute it or stick it in a drawer or put it away so that you're not going to be distracted. If you're working on a computer in your office or you're on your phone, make sure all the other apps are closed, because you're only going to get out of this what you invest in it. And it's very easy in this world in which we live to get distracted by notifications and other things going on. So let's get those out of the way so you can get the most out of this time we're going to spend together. And secondly, remember, you're here to learn. This is part one of a four-part series that we teach called the Attractional Advisor. I'm going to give you some actionable intelligence and some things that you can use at the end of our training time today to add value to your practice. I'm also going to, if you'll stick with me to the end of this presentation, to give you an opportunity to have access to the other additional modules in this series so that you can go even farther in your opportunity to really stand out in the crowd. The four modules together come with a workbook, 47 pages in total, over 4 hours of in-depth sales and marketing training that is truly world-class in what we bring to the table. And it gives you an opportunity to really position yourself uniquely so that you can eliminate competition, have the opportunity to attract clients to you like a moth to a flame, and to cultivate those relationships in such a way that your clients become raving fans that literally become billboards that tell your story and put you in front of other ideal client prospects just like them. Now, what we're going to have an opportunity to look at today in session one in this live setting that we're doing is talking about who you are and what you do to get you thinking about a different way to engage in your practice. And then, again, if you'll stick with me to the end, all the way to the very end of this, I'm going to give you an opportunity to find out how you can get modules 2, 3, and 4. No cost, no obligation. In Module 2, which is available on demand, I want to talk about a different way to market your practice. In Session 3, I want to share with you the selling secrets of the top 5% and the things that these individuals do differently that allow them to sell more business and to engage with more customers than the bottom 95% of all sales professionals combined. And then in Session 4, I'm going to show you how to put together what you've learned in Session 1, Session 2, and Session 3 to really turn your practice into an attractional practice that allows you to really make sure your marketing dollars are going to the best use possible. But I want to start by really setting some expectations. And I want you to think about this poem. A lobster, when left high and dry on the rocks, has not the instinct and energy enough to work his way back to the sea, but he waits for the sea to come to him. If it does not come, he remains where he is and dies, although the slightest effort would enable him to reach the waves which are perhaps within a yard of him. The world is full of human lobsters, men and women who are stranded on the rocks of indecision and procrastination, who instead of putting forth their energies and waiting for some grand billow of fortune to set them afloat. How many of you, having an opportunity to join me for this live setting today, really find yourself in that position? You walked into 2020 not expecting this coronavirus pandemic to strike and really alter the way that we're doing business now and going forward, because, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going back. What we know from consumer behavior studies and human behavior analytics and looking at what's going on in the thinking decisions of consumers, the way they buy has changed. Their habits have changed. And as a result of that, the ability to return to business as usual is going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to do. Sure, there will be some semblance of normalcy when we go back, but the thinking of the consumer has changed, and with that, the opportunity. Now, I want to stretch your thinking because here the lobster is waiting for something to happen rather than proactively doing something to bring about a better outcome that could potentially save his or her life. You and I are the very same way. Our thinking, in terms of the thinking we bring to our business, creates the success that we have. Your beliefs shape your behaviors, and your behaviors determine your results. And so, to get a better result, we've got to go back to your beliefs, what you believe about yourself and your practice and your customer. And we've got to give you a different way to look at that than what maybe you're doing right now. Because as you begin to think differently, you begin to see opportunities that have always been in front of you, but you've not yet had the opportunity to seize upon. Why? Because you were thinking in a different way. So I want to challenge you to think differently. I'm going to really go after some conventional wisdom ideas that many of us have embraced too. We're all creatures of habit. And Albert Einstein said the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. Now, doing the same thing over and over is really stale thinking. And one of the mentors that has an opportunity to speak into my life is an entrepreneur coach. He's an amazing individual from the UK by the name of Christian Simpson. And Christian challenged me with this statement a few years ago. He said, John, your business and the quality of life that it affords you will never outperform the quality of thinking that you bring to it. Therefore, develop the owner and not the business. Now, I want you to think about that because every day, if you're like most of the financial professionals I work with and I coach on a regular basis, and I've been coaching financial professionals for more than 20 years, most of them spend their day working on and thinking about their business. And they never stop to think about their most important asset, and that is their thinking as an entrepreneur. Because your business and the quality of life that it's going to afford for you and your family is never going to outperform the quality of thinking that you're going to bring to that business endeavor. There is no potential in your business. There's only opportunity. The potential is within you, but until you cultivate and develop that potential to a greater level than what it is right now, you're going to continue to see the same results in your practice. Now, another gentleman that speaks into my life is Paul Martinelli, and Paul today is one of the most amazing speakers, trainers, and coaches in the world. When Paul was a young man, he dropped out of high school. He stuttered. He was one of these guys that was considered least likely to succeed. Paul got the great idea that he was going to open a commercial cleaning business. And when he shared that idea with his family, they laughed at him. They ridiculed him because here was a guy that had not accomplished anything, and he had two strikes against him. He stuttered, he couldn't speak well, and he was a high school dropout. But Paul looked at problems, and he saw those as opportunity because he learned to think in a different way. And Paul began to work in the area of commercial cleaning. And as he got more customers, he hired more people and put more people to work. And when Paul sold his business, just a few years later, he sold that business for more than $1 million. Now, Paul has gone on to grow several multi-million-dollar companies over his career, and his latest endeavor has been a very successful career, earning more than $10 million in revenue in his first year in business. But Paul will tell you that the thinking that got him to where he is today, number one, won't keep him there, and number two, won't get him to where he wants to go tomorrow. So Paul speaks into my life on a regular basis and challenges me in the area of my thinking, because as I think and I expand my thinking, all of a sudden I see opportunities that have always been right there before me, but I wasn't yet capable of either seeing them, or even if I could see them in my mind until my thinking changed, it was something I couldn't do. Paul's thinking. Christians and others that speak into my life have done that. And as we go into this session, I want to challenge you to open your mind and open your thinking. I'm going to challenge conventional wisdom, and I want you to think about your practice for the next few minutes in a different way. This is a moment of authenticity when you're going to have an opportunity to really take a different look at your practice, whatever it may be. It's going to be a man in the mirror, woman in the mirror moment when you've got to be honest with yourself, transparent, and vulnerable. Because it's only then that you can see the things that need to be changed, see the things that need to be fixed, and at that point, make a decision whether or not you're going to make the change necessary to bring about a different outcome. After all, nothing in your life changes until something changes. Now, one of the other individuals that speaks into my life is Dan Kennedy. He is considered the godfather of direct response marketing, and maybe you've had an opportunity to read some of Dan's BS books. They are really a must-read if you're in the sales industry, and Dan's written several good books in that series. You can find those on Amazon, but Dan has an honest truth statement I want to open with because it's really going to set the stage for where we're going today. And this is what Dan says. He says you can have the best product in the world and you can have the best service in the world. You can provide great value to your customers and you can be the very best sales professional in the world. You can do all four of these things, but you can still starve unless you have one thing. Now, what is that one thing? It is a reliable, predictable, consistent system that affordably and effectively provides an abundant quantity of quality prospects, leads, clients, and referrals. Now, this is part of what we teach at Vision Advisors, strategies and tactics to help you create a reliable, predictable system that will allow you to consistently, in an affordable and efficient manner, get in front of a significant number of high-quality prospects, the type of consumer that you want to work with. And then once you identify those prospects and engage them, how do you convert them to a lead that raises their hand and saying, I'm interested in learning more? And then from there, how do you take that lead and walk them through a process to make them a client, and then a repeat customer, and then ultimately train that client to become a walking, talking billboard that brings lookalike clients to you so that you can repeat this process over and over again. This is what we do that makes us unique at Vision Advisors, is we teach you how to become an attractional advisor. Now, when we think about sales in general, it's a proven process of a sales funnel that many of us have seen time and time again. We come up with some marketing strategy to engage with prospects, people we believe might be a candidate for what it is that we have to offer. If we get them to raise their hand and say, I want to learn more, they become a lead. And then as we cultivate those leads and we get them to nod their head and say yes, and we take them through a sales process, they become a client. But the problem for most of you on this call with me live today is the fact that 80% of you, after you sell that client something one time, you're never going to have a follow-up conversation with that client. You've capped off the sales funnel with one sale. However, the top 5% understand that if you cultivate this relationship, you can take this client, number one, and get them to become a repeat customer. Because clients don't just have one need or problem to solve, they have multiple. And as you solve one, they now become more readily open to you helping them solve their other problems. And if you cultivate this relationship the correct way and begin to work and build that client relationship and teach them and train them into the type of client that you're looking for and how to spot them, you can teach those clients to become referral sources for you that continually feed your funnel. So at some point in the future, you're no longer having to spend money on new marketing, because you're spending that money in cultivating relationship with your clients that are feeding the right type of prospect into your funnel over and over again. Now, this traditional sales process has worked, but something's happened. The world as we know it has changed. Who would have thought at the beginning of 2020 that we would be dealing with a novel virus, coronavirus, that has changed the way the world operates? To borrow a phrase from the old book back in the late 80s, early 90s, our cheese has moved. And if we haven't had the opportunity to work our way through this new maze, we may starve to death in the interim. And I can't tell you the number of financial advisors that I've talked with that have been working with other IMOs, and they're saying, John, I'm starving. I've not had an opportunity to get in front of a qualified prospect and to do so on a favorable basis. None of their marketing is working in this COVID world. What can I do? Well, there's opportunity to make changes, but we've got to understand the markets are crazy, and they're going to be crazy for some time. The world has changed in the way that it does business. And the other thing that we've seen is that the politicians in Washington are unable to solve the problem. We've got a divided government that's polarized. And as a result, right now, we've got people fighting over petty things rather than serving the people that actually put them in office. But putting all that aside, here's what we know. We know that people today are still afraid. In fact, there was a poll that was done according to a study by EBRI that says 73% of employees working today have fear over money issues and what the COVID pandemic has done to their saving for retirement. We know that because money fears are a significant concern for consumers today, that many of them are so stressed out, they are so worried, they are so fearful, they can't sleep. We're seeing anxiety and depression being reported at record levels. We know people today have problems. They have multiple problems, but they've got one big problem right now, typically money related, that they're trying to find somebody that can help them solve that problem. They are looking for a trusted advisor, a knowledgeable expert who can speak to the fear in their life and make it go away. That's their problem. But you've joined me on this call today, and maybe you don't realize that you too have a problem. And as we think about what's going on in this coronavirus pandemic and the problems that we're facing, number one, consumers don't know who you are. They don't know what you do, and they don't know how you do it. Well, what do you mean, John? They don't know that. Why don't they? My customers know what I do. My question back is, do they really? Do they know what it is that you do, or do they know only one element of what you do because you've only solved one problem for them? Now, the problem for most of you on this call with me today is people don't know who you are and what you do and how you do it for one reason. Here it is. You stink at marketing. You don't tell the story in a way that resonates with consumers and resonates with people that you could be working with in such a way that they say, tell me more. Well, we're going to solve that problem in today's training. You also need to understand that your business is being robbed every single day. And your competitors are robbing your business every day without your knowledge or consent, and without your even being aware that it's taking place. Now, what do I mean by that? What did I just say? Consumers don't know who you are, what you do, and how you do it. If you're looking for a customer to just find you out of the blue, it's not going to happen in the world today. And if you're sitting around waiting on the phone to ring, or you're putting out a post on social media, waiting on somebody to respond, guess what? For all practical purposes, you are the invisible man or the invisible woman. And if prospects don't know who you are and what you do, you are invisible to them. So I want you to think about that. If you are invisible and your competition is not, and your client has a problem they need solved or an issue they need resolved, and they're going to pick up the phone, who are they going to call? It's certainly not going to be you if you are invisible. If your customer that you would like to work with doesn't even know you exist, how in the world are you going to have an opportunity to connect with them? Now, there's another big problem you have, and for many of you, it's this. You don't even know what business you're in. Now, when we talk about what business you're in, I want to challenge you to think for just a minute about what type of business that you're in. So on a piece of paper, let me encourage you just real quickly, or if you want to do it there in the chat box, write down what business that you think that you're in. Now, many of you may come in and say, well, I'm in the insurance business. Well, while you may do insurance, you're not in the insurance business. It's a wrong answer. Some of you may say, well, I'm in the financial planning business. I'm a financial planner, or I'm a fee-only advisor. Well, that may be what you do, but that's not the business that you're in. You may come in and say, I'm a stockbroker. I'm an investment advisor representative. I'm a managed money professional. Well, again, that's what you may do, but that's not the business that you're in. So I guess the question for everybody on the call with me today is, what business are you really in? If you were again to have a man in the mirror, moment in the mirror, woman in the mirror moment, and honestly ask yourself that question, what business am I really in? If I'm not in the businesses, John, that you just said I'm in or that I think I'm in, what business am I in? Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you very candidly, you're in the marketing business. Because if you're not out there telling your story of who you are and what you do and how you do it, nobody's going to know who you are. You are truly the invisible man or the invisible woman. If you're not talking up your business and making marketing the first and foremost thing that you do, you're invisible. Nobody knows who you are, and nobody's going to be beating down your doors to come see you. So your number one job is this, to tell people who you are and what you do. And when I talk about telling people, I'm talking about telling the right people, the type of customer that you prefer to work with most, telling them who you are and what you do. But the question for many of you is, who are you and what do you really do? Now, if you were to sit down and start writing out some explanations or writing down some bullet points of who you are and what you do, let me go in and again, I want to challenge conventional thinking and conventional wisdom, and I want you to begin to think like a consumer, because a consumer has specific needs and concerns. And when the question is asked who you are and what you do, you can't answer that perspective sitting on your side of the table. You've got to answer that question sitting on the same side of the table as the consumer. So when we talk about who you are and what we do, it's not about your product or your service. It's not about your licenses or how long you've been in business. It's not about your degrees or your certification. At the end of the day, it's not about you, period. Consumers care about one thing and one thing only. People only care whether or not you can actually help them. That's all they care about. And when they ask about who you are and what you do, you've got to be able to demonstrate whether or not you can solve a problem, resolve an issue, or help them achieve a goal, a dream, or a desire in their life. Now, there are questions every day that your ideal client prospect is asking, and you've got to be able to answer those questions. Number one, what makes you unique or different? There's probably 100 other insurance professionals in your area right now that do something very similar to you. Retirement planning, Social Security optimization, college planning. Maybe you're a stockbroker. Maybe you're an investment advisor. But there are a significant number of other people who do something very similar. So what makes you unique or different? That if you sit down to have a conversation with a client, they go, oh, that's different. Second question you got to answer is, how can you uniquely solve my problem? Well, first off, you've got to understand what their problem is, and then you've got to have an answer of how you uniquely solve it in a different way or with a different approach, or you do something differently or in addition to what other people are doing that adds value to the client. They're also asking, can I trust you? Are you reliable? Are you going to follow through with what you said you're going to do? And are you going to be truthful with me? They're also asking, are you competent? Are you really good at what you say you actually do? I've visited your website, I've been on your social media, and I've heard your hype, but can you actually perform? And can you make happen what you say you're going to make happen? But really, the one question you must answer that really is all encompassing is this question right here. Why should I choose to do business with you versus any and every other available option to me, including doing nothing? Now, I want you to think about that for just a minute, and I want you to ponder, why would a consumer choose to work with you over any and all other available options, including doing nothing, why would they choose to work with you? That's a question at the end of the day you've got to be able to answer if you're going to stand out in the crowd. So ultimately, the question is, if everybody that's in your type of business is a yellow duck in the pond, how do you become the blue duck in the pond that stands out and gets noticed first and gets people's attention? Well, one of the ways that you can do that is through creating a unique selling proposition or a value statement, something that speaks to who you are and what you do in a very unique way. This is how you can become the blue duck in a pond of yellow ducks. Now, let me give you some examples of value statements or unique selling propositions. Who said this? Fresh hot pizza in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Well, of course, I think we all know who that is. It's Domino's. But think about what they just said. When you want to talk about Domino's and they say fresh hot pizza in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Does that value proposition statement speak to a customer need or concern, or in some way solve an issue they have? If I'm hungry, I can get fresh hot pizza in 30 minutes or less, guaranteed. Here's another one. When it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. Again, whose unique selling proposition is this? It's FedEx. So for the consumer that has a problem, they've got something they've got to absolutely positively have somewhere else in the country or somewhere around the world overnight. Who are you going to think of? FedEx comes to top of mind. Why? Because of that value statement. The milk chocolate melts in your mouth, not in your hand. Again, M&Ms. Every kiss begins with K. K Jewelers. Remember, your job, your number one responsibility in your business is to tell your customer, your ideal prospect candidate, who you are and what you do. But to be able to tell them who you are, what you do, you first got to identify who your customer is. It starts right here. I'm not talking about who the band, I'm talking about who as in your ideal customer prospect. So when you begin to think about your who and looking at your current customer base, the first question we have to ask is, who is your current customer? And as you look at your current customer list, the second question you've got to ask yourself is this the type of customer that you want to work with more often? Odds are some yes, some maybe, and some definitely no. So if you're looking to identify and work with more of your ideal client customers, now we've got to begin to profile who in your group or who in your tribe of current customers is your ideal client prospect. And we've got to begin to figure out who they are, what are some distinctives about them, so that I can build my unique selling proposition, my value statement around messaging that will resonate with this particular type of client. But if you look at your customers and you say, it's not who I want to work with, then you've got to answer the question, who is your ideal client? And once you begin to think through that, the next question you've got to answer is, what makes them an ideal prospect candidate for you? What is it you can uniquely do that solves a problem they uniquely have? What's the conversation that's going on in their head? And of course, is this a conversation that you can help them with? Is it a problem you can help them solve? Is it an issue you can help them resolve? Is it a goal that you can help them achieve? Those are the issues you've got to deal with. At the end of the day, you've got to be able to identify the main problem that that particular group of people has, that as a rule of thumb, they want you to solve. We've got to be able to answer questions like, what keeps them awake at night? What's their number one concern or worry? What is it that they fear the most? What's their greatest pain, frustration, or anxiety? Or if they come in and say, if I could only do this, if I could only have something, if I could only achieve this. What if their one thing was, if I could only retire at age 55 and know I've got enough money to last for the next 20 or 30 years of my life. If only I could retire with enough money to take my wife on the vacation she's always dreamed of and still have enough money to enjoy life when we get home. If only I could make sure that when I retire, I've got enough money for my wife and I to enjoy retirement, but we can also help our children send our grandkids to college. Understanding what keeps them awake at night, their concerns, their fears, or their desires, and your ability to be the solution for that positions you uniquely as an authority figure and an expert. Now, when we think about your who, we often think about age and we think about gender. We think about marital status and family status, whether they still have children at home or they're empty nesters. We think about geographically where they may be located in terms of do they live in a more prosperous neighborhood, or is there a particular geographic area in your state or states that you market in that you can go to find these types of individuals? What are their income and assets? But other things that we need to begin to think about in addition to the basics are what type of media do they consume? Are they on Facebook? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they listening to podcasts? Do they listen to the radio? If so, are they talk radio or are they country music, rock music, 80s, 70s? What type of media do they consume? Do they read the newspaper? Again, knowing the type of media they consume lets you think into where to take the message you're going to deliver. Some more important things you need to think about are what are their hopes and dreams for the future? What goals and aspirations do they have? What are the things that they value in life that are important to them? What types of fears, angers, and frustrations do they have? Who are the foes and villains in their life, the enemies that they combat? Maybe it's inflation. Maybe it's a fear of outliving income. Maybe it's a worry about being a burden on their family if they get sick like their parents did as their parents got older. What type of status do they want to see? What is their perception of reality in terms of how they want to be seen or viewed in the marketplace? Some people are willing to buy the very best because for them it's a status symbol. And they're not just going to buy a life insurance policy. They're going to buy the more expensive name brand because that's a status symbol to them. Understanding whether or not that's important is a critical issue often missed. And understanding the psychographics and the neuroscience of how consumers make decisions is so important. And understanding that can unlock significant opportunity you're likely missing right now. But as you think into these things, you need to understand that your who and defining who that avatar is going to dictate everything else that you do in your practice. Again, it's not about your product or your service. It's about your who, their needs, their concerns, and your ability to uniquely meet those and message it in such a way that it resonates with your target audience. But you have to start with who. So how do we create a unique selling proposition? How do we devise a curiosity statement around what you do? How do you become the blue duck in the pond of yellow ducks? Well, let's look at a definition of what a USP actually is. A unique selling proposition or a value statement refers to the unique benefit exhibited by a company, a service, a product, or a brand. Now, you are your brand. When people think of you, they see a brand whether you see it or not. Again, challenging your thinking. You are a brand that people buy. They buy you before they buy whatever it is that you offer. So your unique selling proposition has to refer to something unique, a benefit about your brand, you, that enables you to stand out in the crowd from the competition, to be the blue duck. Or my daughter, who is competing in some beauty pageants right now, about to be in the Miss Arkansas USA pageant, if everybody walks out on the stage wearing a white dress and she walks out wearing this gorgeous red evening gown she just had made, she's going to stand out in the crowd. You want to do the same thing. You want to be the blue duck. You want to be the girl in the red dress. But your unique selling proposition has to do something more than just talk about you. Your unique selling proposition has to speak to a feature that highlights a benefit that is meaningful or advantageous to the customer. So the story again is not about you. It's about what value you bring to the table that is meaningful or advantageous to the customer, that helps them accomplish something that right now is a challenge or a problem for them. Now, when you think about your unique selling proposition, and I see a lot of the marketing that producers do, they believe it's a selling proposition and it's not, because they do marketing the wrong way. In fact, 95% of all marketing fails. 95 cents of every dollar you spend fails to be effective because you're not marketing the right way. Now, when you think about marketing and your unique selling proposition, again, it's not about your product or your service, and it's not about you. What is it about? It's about the problem you solve. It's about the solution to a client's need. It's about fear that you take away, peace of mind that you bring to a situation, or value that you add. Again, thinking about a unique selling proposition, a value statement has to speak to the wants and needs and concerns of the consumer. So grab your pen and paper if you don't already have it. I want to give you a couple of outlines where you can start to work on this. Again, I promised some actionable intelligence and a practical takeaway. Whether you do business with us or not, we're going to add value to you on the front end, because this is what we do. We are about investing and empowering financial professionals to see success. So here we go. I help my ideal client prospect, whoever that is, to do something or become something, even if, and then we fill in the blank. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of that in a minute, but I wanted you to see the framework. Let me give you a variation of this. I help my ideal client, whoever that is, do blank or become blank so they can fill in the blank. All right, let me give you just a minute. Here's the first one again. I help my ideal client do or become blank, even if blank. Here's a second variation of that. I help my ideal client do or become blank so they can blank. Now let's look at some examples. I help people keep more of what they've saved for retirement so the money they've saved lasts as long as they do. Now we've refined a target market, people getting ready to retire. And what are we offering? Giving them the opportunity to make sure that no matter how long they live, the money they've saved lasts as long as they do. Here's another. I help people live out the dream they've always envisioned of for their ideal retirement. Here's the third. I help people who are in debt become debt-free in 9 years or less, including their home, even if they don't have any extra or discretionary money. Now, again, what are we saying here? A very unique target audience, people who are in debt. What are we giving them the opportunity to do? To become what? Debt-free in 9 years or less, including their home, even if they don't have any extra money. Now, let me give you one more. I help people make sure they will never run out of money in retirement, no matter how long their retirement might last. Again, a variation of a USP we saw earlier, but very effective in speaking to people that are getting ready to retire or have recently retired. And what if you're working with business owners? I help business owners make sure they can actually retire from their business with enough money to do what they've always wanted to do. Now, the goal in every one of those is to engage. And as you've identified the main problem or a primary issue that your target audience is dealing with, to give you the opportunity to get in front of more of the ideal prospects that you want to work with, the goal in every one of those conversations is to get the client to ask the question, well, how do you do that? Think about that. You tell somebody, I'm going to get you out of debt in 9 years or less, including your home mortgage, even if you don't have any additional money to spend. Well, the immediate response is, wow, that sounds great. How do you do that? Now they just raised their hand and they went from prospect to lead. Now you've got an opportunity to engage in a conversation and start them down a process that we teach you to create more yes answers at the end of the conversation if you take the sales process through a very specific filter and a very specific steps to make sure that you move them through a process that engages their mind and walks them through the incremental decisions mentally they have to make to get them to say a yes answer. That is a science in and of itself, and understanding consumer buying behavior and implementing that into your practice can get more yes answers at the end of the day, because now it eliminates confusion, it engages the brain, it engages the mind, and it gives the client an opportunity to say yes emotionally and logically. Now, it's important to remember that your unique selling proposition, that value statement, has to be in the language of your customer. Notice in none of those examples do I mention insurance or investments or anything else. I speak to, in those, the needs of the consumer. Now, you may do more than one thing, but you want one all-encompassing value proposition statement that defines everything that you do. You can have some other additional value statements for various aspects of your business, but they've got to be congruent with your overall message, lest you confuse the client in their mind. And if you create confusion in the mind of a client, you disrupt the thinking process. And when you disrupt the thinking process, what we know from psychometrics and from neuroscience, you disrupt their ability to say yes to your answer. So now your homework is to think through your value proposition and to think through what that looks like for you. Because the goal of creating a unique value proposition and creating a curiosity statement around what you do is this. It's having an opportunity to get the right message to the right person at the right time and engaging them in the media that they are consuming. Now, that's what we teach in the remaining modules of the Attractional Advisor series. But I've given you an opportunity to think about one thing today that you can implement in your practice that can help you achieve a better result in 2021. But there's an opportunity to go even deeper. And that's the opportunity as we wrap up I want to share with you. You say, okay, John, this has been interesting, and I want to learn more. What else is it that you can share and that you can teach me if I have an opportunity to work with Vision Advisors? Well, number one, we can show you how to virtually eliminate sales competition. So you literally become the only game in town. Now, how do you do that? I mean, you're not going to go and kill all the financial advisors in your area. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about learning to market in a different way that gives you the opportunity to stand out in the crowd, to be noticed, and to do so in such a way that people seek you out. You market in a different way that varies from what everybody else is doing. I'm essentially going to teach you how to fish in a different pond. If everybody's fishing in one pond, I want to take you to a pond where there's plenty of fish, but nobody's fishing in that pond. And if you're the only one that's fishing in the pond, you get to pick and choose the fish you want to keep and the ones you want to throw back. I'm also going to show you and teach you how you can transition yourself by learning the selling secrets of the top 5% of sales professionals in our industry. They do things in a different way, not significantly different, but it's the little things that make a big difference. And they do some very unique things in their practice that allow them to see more success than the remaining 95% of all financial professionals in our industry that sell combined. We can show you and share with you their selling secrets and give you an opportunity to begin to implement those in your practice. We can also show you how to turn your clients into raving fans, giving you an opportunity to create in them a billboard and someone that replicates your success by helping you bird dog and identify ideal client prospects that they engage with in their circle of influence and introduce them to you to help solve the same problems that you solve for your existing clients, and to do that for their friends, their families, their neighbors, and their coworkers. Now, if that's of interest to you, this is an area that we can help you in, because this is what we do. We're not an IMO that shoves product down your throat. We are not product focused in what we do. We are producer focused. We are results oriented, and we believe in investing in you, not just with financial tools and resources, but also in training. Because if we can stretch your level of thinking and to get you to think about your business in a different way and to see and learn what is new to learn about your customers, you become more effective at everything that you do. And if we can make you a better you, you become better at what you do. If you can become great at who you are, you can become very, very good at what it is that you do. Now, we're not going to ask you to stop fishing. In fact, we're going to continue to tell you to keep doing what you're doing that's working. But at the same time, we're going to help you transition so that you're fishing in a new ocean where there's less competition and potentially having no competition in your practice. Now, we do that through our consultative selling coaching program, where we teach you how to become an attractional advisor. Now, in this program, you've got an opportunity to get one-on-one strategy calls, an opportunity for weekly sales training, an opportunity to participate in periodic group coaching calls where you'll be learning from peers that are seeing success and sharing their success with others on the calls. And you're going to have an assigned business consultant that is going to be working with you to help you develop and implement a success plan to reach stratospheric results in your practice. So my question for you is this: what are you waiting for? If the IMO that you're currently working with isn't bringing this value to you, what do you have to lose by trying something new? An opportunity to experience a better result. Remember what my mentor reminded me: your business and the quality of life that it affords you is never going to outperform the quality of thinking that you're going to bring to your business. Therefore, we want to help you develop the owner and not the business. Because if we can develop you and expand your thinking, you're going to begin to see opportunities that have always been in front of you that you've overlooked or simply haven't thought were possible. You know, I was with Carly Fiorina last year at a leadership conference, and Carly made a statement. She said the status quo has great power. And when you think about that, it's true. We all become creatures of habit. And we get into a routine of doing the same thing the same way over and over again every day of our lives. That's how our brain is wired. But leaders, successful people, challenge the status quo to change things for the better. So my question for you is this: do you want to challenge the status quo relationship in your business to change things for the better? Do you want to develop the owner and in doing so develop your business? If so, we want to have a conversation with you. You can give me a call at Vision Advisors, 1-800-505-8489. I'm at extension 102. You can talk to Melissa McNana at extension 103. You can talk to Gary Raggio at extension 105, or we can connect you with Kathy Gumbiner, who recently joined our team and have an opportunity to work with one of our coaches. Or you can go to visionadvisorsinc.com, go to our website, scroll to the bottom of the page, and you'll see every one of our consultants listed with a link underneath their name and picture with access to their calendar to schedule a strategy call. We don't know your availability, but now you know ours. And you can schedule a strategy call to have conversation with one of us about how we can help you create a better outcome in 2021 and the years that follow as a result of doing things in a different way, becoming an attractional advisor. You want some help with your unique selling proposition? We can help you there. You want to go and take a deeper dive into your book of business and identify some unique character traits of your ideal customer prospects, walk through a process to identify your ideal avatar of who you want to market, and then from that, go through a process and a series of steps to discover what their fears, their wants, their concerns, their desires, their inhibitions are, all of the issues that they're dealing with that you can bring peace of mind to. And then from that, to help you craft a message and to get that message out to that right audience at the right time using the right marketing medium to achieve a better result. And having an opportunity to become recognized as an authority figure and an expert in what it is that you do. That's what we bring to the table that's unique and different. And so I want to thank you for taking time to be with us today. I want to thank you for investing this time in yourself. You have now invested 50 minutes of time in your financial success. And I want to say thank you for that. And oh, by the way, let me leave you with one last goodie. I promised you that if you'd go to the end of this, I wanted to give you access to our other 3 on demand training modules. If, as a result of hearing this, you want to learn more, I want to ask you to do one thing, and that's shoot an email to me, John, John, at visionadvisorsinc.com, and in the subject line, just put, send me the stuff. And if you do that, I will send you a link where you can access all 4 training modules of our 4 hours of our attractional advisor model. We teach this as a full day workshop for producers. And the producers that have gone through this have seen some amazing success in their practice. They have seen their business grow for the better as a result of implementing what we teach in this practice. They've begun to lean on us and our coaching and training programs to help them achieve better results month after month after month. And one last thing, and I'll give this as another freebie, and then I'm going to let you guys get on your merry way. While you're at our website, visionadvisorsinc.com, in the upper right-hand corner, let me encourage you to visit our Facebook and LinkedIn page and go ahead and like those and follow those. Virtually every day, there's an occasional day we miss it, but virtually every day of the week, we are posting something online to give you an opportunity to start a conversation with a consumer. Content you can share on social media, facts and figures and information you need to know, regulatory changes that may impact how you're working with your client, tools and resources that allow you to have a new and different and engaging conversation with a client or a prospect. And also while you're there, be sure and click on our YouTube button and go visit our YouTube channel. Over 150 sales and training videos available 24/7, 365, because we want you to know that we're serious about investing in our producers. So isn't it time that you worked with a marketing-focused, results-oriented IMO who is willing to invest in you and to help you see a better outcome? If so, look forward to the opportunity to hear from you. I'm John Terry with Vision Advisors, and I want to say thanks for joining us today. Have a great day. And from all of us here at Vision, we want to wish you a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, and happy holidays.